Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. How are you this morning? Let me see, running around like crazy here. Let me see who's here. Oh, good morning. These holiday weeks just seem so extra frazzly. Good morning, Anita. Good morning, Beverly. Oh, did you take a nice walk on the beach, Beverly? That sounds really relaxing. That's a great idea, isn't it? On a nice bright day today. I'm always complaining that, it's like bleak and dreary, and it has been. But today is a nice bright day. It is a nice day for a walk on the beach, isn't it? Let's see. I think I might do that. I could clear my head. Amber, good morning. Joelle, good morning. I'm so happy that we have, I think, 5 or 6 people signed up for the dyeing class already. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But it's so nice to see Buddy signing up for that because that is going to be a super fun night. Amanda, good morning. You hope you start a rug in 2020. Here, brand new, enjoying. Oh, that's so nice, Amanda. Do you mean 2021? Or maybe you're going to start it this month. You have a whole other month to get started. If you even decide what pattern you're going to do, I would consider that starting a rug for sure. I'm not being sarcastic. That it's a good start because making a commitment to a project is a really good start. But yeah, let's get there together. We'll definitely give you some support to get a rug going. Good morning, Mom. We've been going back and forth all morning talking about who's bringing the pie, who's bringing this, who's bringing the Pims, who's bringing everything. It's a fun time of year. Good morning, Crystal. Up in windy Nova Scotia. Hopefully not too windy. Hope not Wizard of Oz type windy. We had that last night here. It got crazy windy because I have a little painted library out front that I did, and I leave it open as often as possible because people are at it like all the time. And people leave books too, and they also leave crazy stuff that I need to remove. But yeah, I'm always worried that that's going to topple over, even though there's a giant piece of rebar in it. It's nice having it out there because it's nice. It's nice seeing people walk by, and if people didn't walk by and stop, then the dog wouldn't have a reason to bark all day long and become exhausted. So it serves many purposes. And good morning, Linda B. in New Jersey. Good morning, Penny in North Carolina. And Cynthia in San Antonio, Texas. We have such a great group, don't we? Good morning, Julie in Minnesota. Oh, a little bit of snow. How festive. Oh, that is nice. Good morning, Linda. Remember, thumbs up. Thank you so much. Thumbs up. My name's Deanna. I always forget to do the business part of the thing. Good morning, Carol. Snowing there too. Oh my God, in Wisconsin. Jess making knit. Good morning in northern Wisconsin. I wonder how close you two are. Good morning, Chrissy. Good morning, Carol P. and Doreen. Catherine in Arizona. I bet you're not getting snow, huh? Good morning, Donna from Alberta. Good to see you. And Shelly, good morning. Heather, there you are. I need to send you a message, see if you have any free time this week. Good morning, Anita. Good morning, Jay. You made it. Good morning, Elaine in Texas. Hello, everybody. Oh, so much to say. I've gotten so into this Pearl McGown thing this week. Who knew? And I don't know why. It must be that the heat is pumping all the time, but I'm thirsty all the time. Maybe I have I don't know, do tapeworms make you thirsty? I'm certainly not losing weight, so it can't be that. But I have been busy getting patterns out. I've got a bunch of these going out. This is the pattern of the 3 little sweaters, right? There's 3 of them here. And just so you know, if you ordered it as an ornament, I zigzagged around it. So you don't have to do that. And I zigzag the edge. So there's no foolishness on your frame with it fraying in any direction. It's going to hold still. You can just do them, and then you can cut them out carefully and turn them into ornaments. And then a bunch of people ordered the big one too, which is nice. And these are the guidelines, right? You don't hook all these lines. You decide if you want a central motif, and then you get like a page of stencils, trees, different things that you might want to put into the center of the thing. And this is the smaller one for the 3 smaller ornaments. And then if you ordered the bigger one, you get the larger page of stencils because they'll fit right in that center. But it'll be up to you if you decide whether you want to do a turtleneck or a V-neck or a crew neck, a central motif or stripies, whatever you want to do. I worked a little bit on mine. I didn't work a ton. I've just been busy. I worked a little bit, and I decided, as usual, that I hate the background. That was the part I liked the best because I love pink with Christmas. This is my favorite part, and I'm so sad that the colors don't come out good. Good morning, Penny and Linda. Thank you. I saw you. You're not just coming on, but I'll say hello again because I love you. I love this color the most, and I hope you could see my close-up pictures of how pretty this is, because anybody who ordered it is getting some of this tinsel. I ordered it from England. It took forever to come. So I'm super excited that I can share it, because it's just not available in the US. Nobody stocks it at all. And it's a beautiful, really high eyelash in every color that you can imagine. But I'm going to need some help with the background, because I'm not liking it anymore. I tore out the top and I did this color. And this is too close to it, the pink. So I was thinking this morning about possibly doing something like a dark blue plaid, or this is more like a periwinkle turquoise plaid. I don't usually like blue for Christmas. I'm more of a traditional Christmas person. I like the 1950s pink with the Christmas colors. But I might have to do blue just because there's so much red and pink in it. You know, it's a super pink charged palette already, or red charged. We'll see how it goes. Let me know how yours go, because it's a very quick project to hook, whether you chose a larger one or the 3 little ornaments. Good morning, Bordando. You're coming from Spain, right? I remember from yesterday. Good to see you again. I just want to mention before I forget that tomorrow we're doing our live Zoom. I know a lot of people are already on for that. If you are not on the Facebook group, Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club, where the information for Zoom is posted, and you don't like Facebook and you haven't already contacted me, feel free to write me at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com, and I will send you the Zoom information so you can come on tomorrow. I'm going to start at 11:30 and we'll go till 12:30, and we're just chatting, hooking, relaxing. Maybe I'll relax too. Maybe you all will connect and figure out where everybody is. It'll just be a nice time. And if it works out well, we'll do it weekly. So that'll be a really nice time. And I want to mention that I will run a show on Thanksgiving morning on Thursday. So I'm thinking there are a lot of Canadians here who have already had a Thanksgiving. That we often have Europeans, Spain, Ireland, different places, and you won't be celebrating Thanksgiving, I'm guessing. But I know there also are a lot of people this year who, because of 2020, are not doing stuff with family and getting together. So I really want to be here for those people and run a regular show. And if you are celebrating, you can always watch it later on the channel. You know, that works well too. But I want to be here for the live show for people who don't really have huge plans. And at least there'll be one thing in the day that's exciting and interesting, right? And then on Thursday, oh, Penny. Oh, that is so nice. See, I figured a lot of people are not doing the usual thing this year. So rather than have a completely empty day that's completely different, at least this part will be the same because we can be together. And I know, isn't that nice, Crystal? And then remember, on Friday, I've got to get the cards out. I'm going to work on getting the cards out later. I'm getting out all of these Christmas patterns, and I have 2 outstanding patterns. Everything's going out today, keeping my turnaround at 2 or 3 days right now. In case you're ordering from me, 2-3 days tops at this moment, 3 on the very outside. I'm going to be caught up today. So if you're ordering something starting from tomorrow, it should go out tomorrow, no matter what it is. And on Friday, I'm going to have the bingo night, the Molly Naitobi 50 State Bingo. So I will get those cards on either tonight and alert you. I'll let you know as a reminder tomorrow morning for sure during Zoom, and I'll post it. The bingo cards are available for bingo. Same thing as last time. We had 4 winners last time who each won about $35, I think. And everybody spent it at this point because, Susan, I'm sending your thing today. So everybody spent up. So that is exciting that worked out. Some people got like kits and yarn. Susan got like white wool for dyeing. So, you can get basic stuff from me. You don't have to get my designs if they're not exactly your thing or you like to do your own stuff. You can get supplies from me too. Yarn, just tell me what you want because I probably have it and I haven't had the time to get it online or in front of you. So that's the way that is. So you know what? and I'm going to finish up this turkey thing too. So I'll hopefully have that done before Thanksgiving. This is using all sweaters, just sitting with the charm squares of sweaters, cutting them on the couch with scissors, no cutter, just free and easy. And I haven't done anything new on that, but it's a fun project. I've been working on Pearl because, I just love her. And the more I read about her, and we're going to go back to this book again. We're going to be looking at this book for a while, back and forth, in and out kind of a thing, because there's so many interesting points in it. And, one of the things I was thinking about, I was thinking overarching points, right? My own interpretation. Every time you hear me talk, it's my own interpretation. But I was thinking about the nature of these rugs and the way that these rugs look. And let's just look at the front piece again. This is a show that they're putting together of current rugs at the time. This is this is actually 1966, this book. So this would have been earlier. But one of the things that I realized looking at this picture and thinking about what I think Pearl McGown's rugs typically look like, right? Because they are a collected catalog of rugs from earlier times. And then later in her career, she does her own designing. And you do get deviations from this kind of a look. You get deviations with like the Carrier Knives types prints, and then the still lifes and the things we mentioned. She also does sort of tribal stuff, and her granddaughter will do a little bit of that too. But for the most part, I relate Pearl McGown rugs, Pearl, to this kind of a look. And it made me realize that these rugs were not meant for the wall. Now that goes without being said, right? You've probably thought of that a long time ago, but for me, that I thought of that and then it clicked because I'm thinking, in terms of context, it's sometimes hard for me to get excited or sustain excitement for the style of rug because they're so similar. And again, the more I go through a beautiful book like this, The Lore and Lore of Hooked Rugs, the more I appreciate the fine detail, like the picket fence borders and things like that. But at first glance, for me, it's always kind of like, oh, it's an American sort of Oriental handmade rug. Super quaint, very skilled. But when I think of it in terms of these rugs are meant to go on the floor, not on the walls. Because when we talked about artists who hooked last week or the week before, those rugs were meant to go on the wall, and those rugs were earlier. So this is just a different style. This is workmanship. And when I think about her life, she is plying a craft, right? She's lived through, she starts in the 1920s. She's lived through World War II. She's lived through the era of men going away and women staying at home and taking their jobs over. She's lived through the era of men coming back at this point, and the idea of making the perfect house, moving out to the suburbs, the baby boom, away from the cities, making a perfect house, being a homemaker. And this is what that represents, right? This look, the spending this much time making 1, 2, 3 rugs a year for your house that people will use, the pride in that, the purpose of that, the sort of heirloom feeling it gives you to be able to do something this beautiful for your own home. It is a mindset, and it is part of this generation. I'm not compartmentalizing it because obviously it's something we still do today, and many people hook rugs for the floor, and I do too sometimes. But this is really an era, right, of rugs that will look like this. We're going to look at more. We're going to look at the heirloom rugs soon because I have the catalog right here, and we haven't looked at it yet. But I was just thinking of her life and putting it into context. So I found this book while I was fooling around looking for dye things because we're going to talk about dyes a little bit in Pearl's book. But oh, thanks. It'll be a fun episode. By the way, on Thanksgiving, we're going to start the Thanksgiving episode talking about Norman Rockwell, rugs in Norman Rockwell paintings, because of course Norman Rockwell is known for depicting American family life, or at least the kind of American family life everybody wished that they had. That's the important point, I guess, because they're so idealistic in general, but there are a lot of hooked rugs in them. So we're going to start the episode with looking at Norman Rockwell and his link to hooked rugs. And then I'm going to transition back to Pearl because it's pretty much the same era that we're talking about, 1920s, 1930s, 1940s. So that's how we're going to start the Thanksgiving episode. But I picked up this little book. I don't know where I got it. It's a little paper-bound book by Arthur Young. It's called America Gets Hooked, History of A Folk Art. So I was looking through it, and it covers a lot of things that we talked about. How I wished I'd opened this book before the last bingo night, because it took me, this is Felina Moxley. It took me so long to put together a list of 50 plus things about rug hooking to include on bingo night. And if I'd looked at this book, there was probably 50 right in this little tiny book. But that's okay. We'll look at this book in greater detail later. But I did have it open to the chapter on Pearl. It's not a full chapter because it's only like 30-something pages. But he does have a part of this, more of a pamphlet than a book. And I think part of it is worth reading because this is super rare. And he has written a second book that isn't available at all. I don't know about the availability of this one. Probably not very high chances of finding it. That's why I'm going to use it and share it now. But Arthur Young wrote another book called The Lyrics of Fiber, which I would love to get a hold of. If anybody has that, I would pay you. I don't know if it's even legal to pay it and send it, but I'm looking for it, and it's definitely not available. And I'd love to know what's in it because I would love to share that. Ask with these huge rugs, do they make backing that large? Or are there, okay, so Heather's asking, that's a really good question. When you see these really huge rugs, like the room-sized rugs, are you piecing the backing together, or are you using one giant piece? And Heather, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer historically to that. I would say with pearl, I don't know. I mean, with the average person, I would guess that they were piecing, but I just don't know. Um, just thinking through logically, it's something I can figure out. The amount of mills historically that have been in New England, not now, but that have been in New England, I would think that it might be possible to get a large sort of bolt or roll of backing. I would think so, with rug hooking being such a big hobby. If anybody knows, rug warp will come up to 75 inches wide. Um, Most of the monk's cloths and things I have are like in the 50s and 60s. So the rug warp would be thicker. I don't know. I'm going to find out the answer to that, Penny. I'm going to find out for now if you can buy something that wide. But also historically, not all these rugs are large. Like the Pearl McGown rugs, I've got some of them here. They're not that large. So they would fit on a bolt like we would have now. But I wonder with the older ones, if people were able to get enormous pieces and hook with them. Yeah, let me know if anybody knows that, if there's anything bigger than a 75 that you've seen, but I'll find out in sort of the middle century too. It'd be interesting to find out what you could get. So he starts this chapter, called Enter Hooking Teachers. This is an important thing, right? Because he's gonna make a reference to what's his name, Walter Burnham, Ralph Burnham from Ipswich. Remember the antique dealer who was very sort of wily. And so Julie says she thinks Searsport has large backing. They probably do. My roll from Searsport of monk's cloth is like taller than I am, and I'm like just over 5 feet. But yeah, it would kill me if it fell over on me. I think I have some rug warp that isn't the warp. It's 90 inches wide. Okay, thinner, more like monk's cloth. It's 90 wide. 90 wide is really wide. But remember, Burnham is the dealer from Ipswich who would offer to repair your rugs, and he would have other people repair the rugs in-house, and he would copy the rug at the same time. And he never really got in trouble of this, probably because of the time period. But he did, in doing this, make some good money, but also save a lot of patterns, because he was copying original patterns, and he was copying patterns that were early commercial patterns. And he saved a lot of patterns that way. So his name is synonymous with saving patterns, but then comes Pearl McGown, who saves patterns on an epic, huge, monster scale with numbers and words that we haven't even invented yet. Her amount of saving and cataloging is like no one else has ever done before in rug hooking, and will do again, because she has captured an era, many generations of hooking patterns. So what Burnham did was amazing and important, and Pearl kind of carries on in that sort of fiber tradition of saving the old patterns, because doing anything with fiber is a traditional art. I don't think anybody would argue that. We are traditional people, and we tend to like traditional things. And yes, some of us love to do photorealism in rug hooking, and some of us love to do altered colors or super abstract and modern. But at the end of the day, it is a traditional craft. And we do tend as a group to want to save traditional patterns and to save the history, because it's just the way that we are. It's built in, part and parcel. So he says by the 1930s, designer teachers, and he means like Pearl McGown, of hooking became less active as a pastime and hooking became active as a pastime more and more as a leisure time hobby and a therapeutic activity. That's a good point too, because there's a few points in Pearl's rug here where she talks about, it's mostly about teachers, examples of rugs that teachers have hooked. I'm going to get back to that. But she talks a few chapters about the rug, like sort of really saving the person who was hooking it, because at home there were serious health problems and serious things going on, and how, hooking as therapy for people, producing a beautiful rug while something devastating was happening at home, was a game changer and a lifesaver for a lot of people. So it's funny that they would mention that in this book too, the therapeutic quality of it. And he says, encouraged by her mentor, Pearl's mentor, Caroline Saunders, who was the leader of a loosely organized group of students, McGown emerged early as a rug designer. Jane McGown Flynn of Sterling Junction, Massachusetts, carries on her famous grandmother's tradition as head of the National Guild of Pearl K. McGown Rug Hook Crafters, Hook Rifters Incorporated. That's a tongue twister. She remembers her grandmother as a truly dedicated lady who began designing rugs as a young divorced mother. Pearl's business was born out of necessity at the age of 24. She became divorced, a condition much more rare in the 1920s than today. She had a son and a ninth grade education. Working as a legal secretary for a meager pay, she found she needed more money to provide for herself and her child. To earn that money, she began designing rug patterns for Caroline Saunders, who was the wife of her boss. So this is kind of the McAdoo story too, and the Amy Oxford story, coming in through babysitting, for the boss. Same thing with Pearl. I had never heard this part of the story before. She soon began to sell her own designs to hooking teachers. For a time, she traveled and researched in New England to find designs to reproduce. Later, she developed a latent talent for creating originals. Her first book, Dreams Beneath Design, discusses the history of the craft with pictures of some of the old geometric floral rugs that she turned up in her research. That's the book that I, for the moment, misplaced, but I will find it. I'll get back to it. I do have a beautiful where is it? This little guy that is featured in that Dreams Beneath Designs or whatever it was. This one I think is called Star Tea Box. I think this is called Star Tea Box. It's on burlap. It was cut like this. I got it off eBay. So I'm going to have to work quickly to try to save it. It's been serged on the edges, but it's burlap. I'm going to do something with this. This is just, it's not my typical kind of design, but it's a pearl. I love it because it's from that first book that she did. It is a geometric, and somebody has gone just over the top with the shading that glows. When you shade to the extent that it glows, this is the product. I think it's really beautiful. This is a great sort of teaching model because it is a super extreme exercise in shading, right? These are like the swatches that she used. This one I think is the same as this one. So it's really 3 different swatches. But in terms of learning to shade, and I know some of you are interested in shading, and I might run a class in doing something like this that is extreme shading, just so you know how far you can go with shading. You can get realism, but you can also use shading in geometrics like this, which is very early Pearl, and I think really beautiful. It is beautiful colors, right? So Dreams Beneath the Design discusses the history of her research. Her career produced 2 more books, and actually 3. So maybe that dates this little pamphlet. Both among the best in hooking literature. She became a color expert, to say the least. In 1970, now this is the sad part, in 1970, she sold her copyrights to Old Sturbridge Village. Until now, I really loved Old Sturbridge Village, but wait. A regional Americana museum complex in Massachusetts. It's a living history museum where houses that are true to the history, which is like the 19th century, have been moved from other places in New England and placed on the grounds in the town of Sturbridge, in a place called Sturbridge Village. So they have created a typical New England town, and they are period houses, but they have been moved from other places. So the town didn't exist as it is, but they are historic buildings, and they have been put into the configuration of a town of that period in New England with a lot of agriculture and a lot of interest. So it was very appropriate, and it was a great business savvy for Pearl to think to sell her rug hooking designs to Old Sturbridge Village because they had a ready market. They have a huge gift store, and they did then too. I've been going there for years and years, but their focus is early American life and crafts, and handcrafts are a huge part of the thrust of the village. So it was really smart for her in the 70s to choose that approach, to be marketing her hooked rugs to a place where handcrafts are so important. And in the gift shop, they must have sold like hotcakes, which is exciting because there's no hooked rugs in the gift store anymore, or kits or anything. There's a lot of postcards and garbage, but that's just the way it is, isn't it? That's one thing the internet's good for, finding the good old stuff. So in 1970, she sells her copyrights, everything, to Old Sturbridge Village. It was following that sale that she, at the urging of the people at Sturbridge, formed the National Guild. In the 1980s, Sturbridge Village decided they no longer wanted to be in the rug business. So it wasn't paying out for long. The 70s, if you think about the 70s and the magazines of the 70s, there was a major craft trend. Latch hook, rug hooking, knitting, crocheting. Crafts in the 70s were over the top. Pottery, macrame, anything you can think of. They did it like crazy in the 70s. The 80s, a little bit less. The 80s is another financial boom. People are buying stuff again. People don't think about making stuff if they can buy it. And everybody can buy it because in the 80s, everybody has money for the most part. So that was a bit of a statement, but you know what I mean. It was definitely a boom. So they decided they didn't want to be part of this rug business anymore. And at that point, her granddaughter, Jane, attempted to repurchase her business from Old Sturbridge Village, bringing it back into the McGown family because, of course, Jane was a huge hooker and designer. However, Sturbridge Village elected to not sell it back to them. Instead, they sold it. It says simply, they sold all of the patterns and royalty to a company in Maine. I don't know for certain, and I would not bet my life on it, but which makes me kind of sad, not because of Cushing, not bad feelings about Cushing, the McGown family and their family legacy. That the business was able to leave her family and be sold, but not back into the family. And you have to assume it's got to be a money reason why Cushing was able to buy it and the family was not. Everything like this is about money in the end, which is kind of sad, but I didn't know that part either. And it kind of got me this morning. I thought that's really kind of crappy, but I don't know the whole story, of course. So anyway, Flynn says, she's talking about Jane Flynn, says she says that move, I know it was a business decision, but the effect on my grandmother, and Pearl was 88 at the time, was disastrous. However, at that age, she was still very helpful to other hookers, involved in teaching, and until like within a couple weeks of her death, she was still designing patterns. So could I repeat the last part? So the last part was saying that because Jane McGown Flynn became a hooker, like her grandmother, she attempted, when Sturbridge Village decided they didn't want to keep the rug hooking business anymore, the copyrights and all the patterns, the rights to all the patterns, the McGown family attempted to buy them back because Jane was full blast a hooker and a huge person in the hooking world, and they wanted the business back in the family. But for business reasons, Sturbridge Village decided to sell it to a company in Maine. And I assume that company's Cushing because they now own all of the rights. And this wasn't that long ago. Let's see when this book was published, just so we have kind of confirmation on what I think is a very good working theory. 1994. So not that long after, about 10 years after that would have happened. But yeah, at the age of 90, Pearl died. And, within weeks of her death, she was still working on new designs. So, we're already almost at the end. But let's just look at this book for a minute. We're going to come back to this, not tomorrow, because we have you're welcome, April. We have our live Zoom. But I do want to come back to this for so many reasons. Remember, we left off yesterday with a chapter about how the husbands helped so much, how their handy-dandy, whatever, insights, building skills came into play with a lot of inventions. And this, there's another chapter here. I'll end on this today, and we'll know that we're coming back to it because there's so much to say about this book and the patterns in this book. And I still haven't shown you the pile of rugs I have here, some of which are in this book. But I thought this was interesting, and this ties into something that I've already mentioned in this episode. One of these chapters, Pearl names Strive Against the Stream, which isn't super catchy, but you get the point, and it's an important message. And she says, did you ever stop to think that even before retirement, you have 8,760 hours a year? When you deduct 8 hours for sleep, 8 hours for work, 2 hours for traveling to work, that's a sign of the times too, isn't it? 3 hours for meals, and 1 hour for dressing and undressing. That's also extraordinary, isn't it, for most of us? Imagine an hour for dressing and undressing. I've got like 7 minutes, I think, collectively. But anyway, you still have 730 hours to spend as you wish. So psychiatrists, this is Pearl speaking, psychiatrists will tell you to develop a reserve of interests upon which to draw in your declining years. I am reminded of meeting a guest at the Rose Cottage who confided in me that though she was now 82, she had been employed until she was 75. Since her retirement, she'd become interested in hooking and had made 9 rugs. But oh, she said, if only I had known about hooking years before, my retirement, my life could have been a lot happier. Isn't that an interesting thought? It's an interesting thought to end on too, because first of all, I find it very sad, just the thought, not the sentiment, but the thought of measuring your life in rugs. Again, I'm not being patronizing or sarcastic. It's just, you measure your life in anything, right? You measure your success in anything. But in terms of like this woman having worked so long and then being retired and only getting to 9 rugs, That's not that many, is it? And the sense of frustration in her conversation with Pearl at the Rose Cottage about how, she wished she had gotten into it sooner. Because when you think of it, wherever you are with your hooking, at the beginning, we were saying, somebody way at the top of the thread said, I hope, I'm going to start my first rug. And a lot of first rug hookers are in the Facebook group. And some of you have been hooking for years and years. I'll never catch up with you. You've been doing it for years. It's wherever you are in that journey of hooking. I suppose there's always that feeling that you'd like to do more, you would like to get better, you'd like to try this or try that, and you have your whole bag of tricks that's in the back of your mind that you would like to pull on. And I guess when the point is when you start really late, there's that sense of sort of chagrin, which I can also identify with, because I think I've mentioned that my dad in retirement, once he finally retired, he tried so many hobbies. In his later years in general, we moved to Florida because for a year, think he thought he was like Hemingway, and he got into boating and, paddling around the crocodiles with their eyes sticking out of the water like this, and tried so many things, and tried the duck decoys, Catherine. That's why I love the thing that you sent me with the ducks, but tried so many things and never really got traction on any of them. He never really found his hobby. Fishing, he tried everything. And he never really found it. And it's just a thing. It's just a thing for us to be grateful for, that if you're watching this, you're probably already interested in hooking or something related to fiber art. And just consider yourself lucky. One more thing to be thankful for right before Thanksgiving, that you have found something that you really love. And however much time there is left, you certainly have time starting right now to work on it and to get better at it and to make it your own and put your own personal stamp on it. So I just thought that was an interesting sentiment. This sort of psychology that Pearl puts into some of these books is so interesting. But tomorrow we're going to Zoom. So if you need the information, ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. And I will send you the Zoom info. If I don't send you a personal email, it's not because I don't care about you. It's just because I'm busy and I'm getting orders out. But I will certainly send you the Zoom info for tomorrow morning, starting at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. And then I'll be back on Thanksgiving at the usual time, and I'll start with Norman Rockwell. And if I have time, I'll transition to Pearl. And I want to talk about Pearl for a while. I want to get this history in and down. I don't want to say done, because it's evolving. We'll always go back to Pearl, but I'm going to definitely hit more on that on Thursday. And then I'll remind you to get those bingo cards, which should be available later today. Hey, everybody, have a great afternoon. And I'll see you in person. For those of you that are there tomorrow, I'll see you in person. I'm debating whether I should record it, because people who aren't able to watch saying they'd love to record and see what we say. If you have strong feelings about not recording it, please let me know, because my plan is to record it. If there's a lot of people who have strong feelings about not recording it so that people can watch it later, please let me know. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow live. We will have some fun. I will have a coffee. I do not have a script. I have nothing in mind. We're just going to chat and relax and get to know each other. Have a great afternoon. I'll see you then. Okay.